Welcome to Season 2 of The Shift, Stories of Resistance and Resilience, a multi-platform conversation series produced and hosted by me, Mark Travis Rivera, the professional storyteller. I believe that stories have the power to change the world. Through honest conversations and powerful storytelling, we explore how people challenge systems, shift narratives, and transform culture, creating a more inclusive, just, and liberated world in our lives and in our work. Here on this podcast, you'll hear from changemakers, truth tellers, and community builders who are using their voices and their stories to move us forward. So if you believe in the power of storytelling to spark change, you're in the right place. Listen closely, take notes, recognize our shared humanity. This is The Shift. Hey y'all, welcome back to The Shift. I am so excited. I have been anticipating this conversation with today's guest for months, and I am extremely nervous, and it's very rare that I meet someone that when I meet them in person for the first time that I'm speechless and in awe of and start crying. And I've met some of my biggest heroes, from Oprah Winfrey to Dr. Brené Brown. And when I tell you, when I met today's guest, it was instant tears of gratitude. This person's work and words have helped heal me for over a decade. I'm not going to cry today. I said, don't cry for the interview. And I just have to say, today's guest is someone I deeply admire, someone who I don't even think she realizes the depth of my gratitude for her work, because we never really had a full-blown conversation. The first conversation we had in person was when I first met her, and I was fangirling terribly. But today's guest is the one, the only, Morgan Harper Nichols. She is a best-selling author and award-winning artist whose work explores creative storytelling through visual art and the written word. Her books, including the best-selling All Along, You Were Blooming, and other collections of poetry and illustration, have found a wide international audience. She has built a creative community of over 1 million followers on Instagram, where she shares her art and reflections on creativity, healing, and connection. Morgan is also the creator of the Storyteller app, which I highly recommend. It's one of my favorite apps, and the founder of Garden 24, a platform for her visual and written work. I bought all her mugs. Highly recommend. In addition to her creative practice, Morgan is a PhD student in communication studies at the University of Georgia. Her research focuses on using art-based methodologies to communicate health narratives. She serves on the board of directors for the To Write Love on Her Arms, TWLOHA, and is actively involved in community-based mental health initiatives. At 31, Morgan was diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and sensory processing disorder, an experience that continues to inform her work and perspectives. From and based in the Atlanta, Georgia metro area, she continues to connect art, research, and community in ways that highlight creativity and a space for understanding, imagination, and meaningful connection. And she's our guest today on The Shift. Welcome, Morgan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying yes.
Of course. Oh my goodness. I was so excited to meet you. And I just have to put you on the spot because when we met, you were asking a question for an event. And I was like, wait, I know who that is. I was like, I know Mark. So I actually found you. So the fangirl is equal. Like you mentioned, like it was equal. I was like, oh my gosh.
I know, like, because you had DM'd me on Instagram, but when I'm at an event, I typically don't check my phone.
Yeah,
So, unlike Gen Z, I like to be present and not on my phone. And so you tap me on the shoulder, and I turn around, because I'm a friendly person, so people come up to me sometimes. So I turn around, and I have this moment, and I tilt my head, and I'm like, Morgan, and you said what? And I instantly fangirled. It was so embarrassing, but also just really authentic. And I tried to be authentic, and it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I met you.
Oh my goodness. I was so excited to meet you because like something that I feel like it doesn't always come across when you're like in digital spaces, but I'm sure you can connect with this. Is like, you love what you do. It's like you're excited about it, and then like if you just get to meet other people who have connected with it in some way, like I just find that exciting. Like I'm like, hey, it's real life, it's
Real
it's
life.
yeah, because there's so many times where it's just like, you make the thing and then it goes out. You don't always know like who's on the other side of it. So I just, yeah, I live for those. It was just such a special moment. It really
Yeah,
was.
yeah, it was a really special moment for me as well, and it was, something that after I left Dion, who was my friend who was with me that night, he took our picture and stuff. I said to him, I was like, I've met Oprah Winfrey, I've met Dr. Brené Brown a couple times, and I have never gotten that emotional. And it really made me reflect on, why I didn't meeting you, why that moved me so deeply. And I remember for years now, your quote graphics, your words have deeply, like, it's as if you write them for someone like me or me. And I know that you write them for a vast international audience, but somehow it just feels like you're speaking right at me. And for years, I've been reposting your work. And, this is like while I was still in college, right? So back in the early mid 2010 to 2015, and MHN, your initials. And to know that, to have a copy of your book, first of all, you're only just beginning. I actually have a signed copy of this book that I got from Garden 24. And you wrote such a beautiful message. I was like, wait, did she make the connection that it was me from Instagram? Because you wrote such a nice little message. I'm not going to read it because it's just for me, but your other book, Pieces of Practice, which I also love. And so I'm just a huge fan of your work. And sometimes they tell you don't meet with the people you admire because they might disappoint you. And meeting you was not at all anything like, wasn't on my bingo card that night, but it wasn't disappointing. And you are just as genuine and sweet in person as I've always imagined that you were through your words. So thank you so much.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That really does mean a lot to hear, because it really does. Everything I put out there, it comes from who I really am. So that means so much to hear, and it
Yeah.
really does. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to jump into these questions. I can fangirl about you all day. But who are you outside of the professional highlights I read in your bio? Because you've done quite a
Yes.
lot.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This is probably like the most random way to start, but it is who I am. Like, I am just like, I am a like video game fiction world building nerd. Like, I just love to just like get into the weeds of just made up worlds. Like, I'm a mom of a 7-year-old, and now I
Oh,
have like yeah, I have like a buddy with me. He's all into it with me, and we're just like building theme parks. I mean, not real theme parks, but fictional theme parks and all of that. And yeah, that honestly guides a lot of who I am and things that I like doing. Like, even when I'm not, being like Morgan the professional artist, because just having space to imagine and play, like, it's just so important. So like, I love theme parks. Like, I will never let go of Six Flags over
yeah,
Jordan. you can't
there's one
you
right
can't
there,
take it away
right
from me. I'm like, my whole life, um I'm like, I love that place. I can just walk around. I just love the vibes. I just love, just like, just for a moment, you just get to kind of play and just be free. So, but I
yeah.
also feel that way like walking around like a regular park. Like,
Mhm.
I will literally just stand outside and just watch squirrels just do their thing. So
Yeah. Actually, I forgot that it's on my. You can't see it in this framing, but up here is one of your prints.
oh my goodness.
And I'm gonna pull it
Oh
down.
yes. I know she
Uh,
had this.
okay, so this has been up here forever. Okay, long before I knew she would be on the podcast. So I'm not just doing this. I am like a true admirer and supporter of her work. Okay, I
Thank
put my money
you.
where my mouth is, and this is one of my favorites. I don't know if you all can see that, but it's you are more. You have more impact than you know. And I
Mm.
remember when it was a little dusty. Sorry. I remember when I was first going to full time creative entrepreneurship, and I was really, really questioning myself. I'm really doubting my ability to grow the professional storyteller into something. And you were one of those people for me that kind of served as a blueprint, a possibility model, if I may
Wow.
say so. And I remember seeing this at the store, and printing it and just always having it next to my desk.
Mm.
Uh, Whenever I start to question my impact or question my worthiness, and I would read this, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can keep going with a professional storyteller. And so, yeah. So I love that. I had no idea you were a parent, which I think is so sweet. And for obvious reasons, you probably don't share about your child online. The
No,
people
it's
all
totally okay. It's one of those things where it's like I'm just such like a hey, when things come up in conversation, they come up in conversation, and
I love that.
that's my daily life. Just like
Yeah.
being a parent is just like it's like it's a daily thing. Like
And a
it's
student, you are deep in your PhD studies.
yeah, so yeah, that too, and it's just so yeah, it's play has just become like just such a important part of just my family and us, just like as a family,
Yeah.
and I'm married to my husband, and thankfully he's someone else
Great.
who likes to play and like have fun. Like that's just like the thing. It's so important. Like I don't know, maybe to some people that sounds cliche, but I think it's an extraordinary privilege. Like if you get the
Absolutely.
chance to like we have this there's this I wish now I gotta make sure I get the name right because but if people want to find it, it's so valuable, but it's a matching game, and it's
Okay.
all about like black inventors, and we play this all the time. Like I'm horrible, I always have the lowest score, because apparently my memory is it's a memory game. So I think it's called like design black by design. I think that's what it's called. If you Google it, it's out there. It's like an
Okay.
independent like blackboard game, and I played it when I was a kid, like back in the 90s, and I went and I found that game, and now they're beating me at it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
clearly I learned nothing in the 90s. But that is just like the highlight of life for me. It's just like being able to just like have like moments like that where it's just like you can just play a game. And again, I lose. I'm horrible at it. Like it's like I'm not
Person you want to play board games with because I play to win. I don't care if you're a child.
yes. Unless
Old.
it's guys. Yeah.
I'm not going easy on nobody. I'm
So
gonna
people are
win.
like, oh, are you letting your son win? I'm like, no. I'm just not good at it. But categories. For some reason, categories is the one I become really competitive at. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I just think that play is a really important thing, and I try to bring that into life. Because even working like on my PhD, like I teach in the classroom. I have students that I teach and all of that, and I always like bring in little
Do they
games and
know
like
who you
just
are? Like, do they know who your professor is?
it's funny. I don't mention it, but it doesn't take long for some people to put it together. So I
No.
never mention it.
I would
I just
know if I walked in my classroom and it was, Professor Nichols, and it was
yeah,
you.
I never mention it, but it gets put together. It gets put
Yeah.
together. So it's
Yeah.
just like an open secret, I guess. I'm like
Yeah.
I'm not like here's me looking,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's like wait a minute, you seem familiar. So I have
Yeah.
I have had that happen sometimes,
I
but
love
it's it's cool. It's all cool. Yeah.
um, I have to ask you this question, and I alluded to this in my introduction to you. Again, you've built a community of over 1 million people, and yet your work feels deeply intimate. And it was as if it was written for one person at a time. How do you protect the intimacy at scale, right? And what do you think people are actually hungry for when they
Mm.
find your work?
That's such a good question. And honestly, that journey for me of like, I love the way you phrase that, just protecting the intimacy of scale. It's so well said because it is something that you have to protect because you never know when you put things out there, like how they're going to go, like
Yeah.
who's going to see it. And in my experience, I've had a lot of different modes of creativity. And I've done music, poetry, I've
I
been all
know
over the
this.
place.
You're also a musician. I found out. Yeah. So yeah,
Yes, and it's
I
just
know
and
so much.
I feel like I have my serious answer, but my non-serious answer is just like I'm just somebody from Atlanta. Like I'm from Metro Atlanta. For anyone who wants to be technical, I didn't grow up in the perimeter, but
Yeah.
my mom did. So I'm rooted in
Yes,
the
you're
Atlanta. I'm like,
Southern
it's
Southern
just
Brown.
yeah, it's just in the air. We should be doing stuff. We should be doing stuff. And
Yeah.
so that was that's me. Why did I bring all that up? I was saying that. Oh yeah, so I was protecting the intimacy of your work.
That's
So I
real.
did a lot of I focus a lot on music and being a songwriter, and those things are very valuable to me. I spent like if you look at my journals in terms of like trying to envision what I want to do, that was the thing. I was like, I want to be a songwriter. I want to be a songwriter. That. That's the thing. That's the thing. And I really had a lot of great opportunities come through that. However, at the same time, um, as anyone knows who's been alive for 5 days or more, great opportunities doesn't always pay the bills. It's just like it's just like, wow, that was wonderful. I'm so glad I had that opportunity, and I still have to pay rent.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of those building up. And that led me to feeling really discouraged because I was like, I know I'm giving my all to this, but like I'm getting really tired and I'm broke, and I can be
Yeah.
tired or broke, but tired and broke at the same
Yeah.
time do not work well together across time. Like that is just it's like I can do one or the other, but for a long
Struggling.
time. So the way all this connects to your question was it was in that moment where I wrote a poem about that struggle and about that experience of feeling like a failure and just feeling like I had given my all, like something that I felt like I was meant to do, that I had been encouraged by. I feel very privileged. I had parents who encouraged me and my sister creatively. Like, so I had that. I had people who were like, we're cheering for you, we're rooting for you. But sometimes that actually makes it harder when
Yeah.
you have people who are cheering for you because you're like, I don't want to let them down. So I was feeling all of that. And that can feel just so isolating. So I wrote a poem about it, and then I took a picture of it. It was just in my journal, and I took a picture of it, same place where I'm writing all these dreams. I'm like, go to the failure page and just, write it all out. And then I posted that on Pinterest. And this is in 10 years ago. This is 2016. And that one ended up getting repinned over 100,000 times. And that taught me a lot because it taught me that like that moment where I felt pretty alone and I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone about that because I was like, it feels kind of selfish to be complaining about this, considering like the state of the world. Like, I'm like, this is not, I'm like, it feels so heavy, but it didn't feel like it was something I could talk about. So I turned it into poetry. And as it turns out, at least 100,000 other people at some point felt that connection too.
Yeah.
And that was such a big moment to me because it was like I didn't know who those people were going to be, but it was just one story, the story that I'm in, and I was not at the happy part of the story. It wasn't the part of the story that I knew how things were going to work out, but I was like I can be present to that, and that ended up being enough to create a large of enough pattern that I was like, oh, that's what it is. Because after that, people started asking me, were like, well, do you have any more poetry? And I was like, no, that was the only one. But I was like, well, one story at a time. I was like, that's how I'll approach this. I was like, that's how that ended up connecting with people. That was one moment. And that was simultaneously very humbling and very eye-opening. It was like, oh, I don't have to try to be the clever writer, artist, songwriter. It's like that's great. Those moments will come. And at the same time, just that simple moment of just like sharing something that somebody that you just feel like, am I even allowed to say this? Am I even allowed to talk about this failure or feeling this way? That ends up being the thing that connects. So that's what I always hold on to when I share things. I've had moments now, like this past November, I had my like highest engagement on a post I've ever had. And honestly, it like terrified me because it was so, I've been doing like these posts where you can like select a color and you swipe to the poem. And
Yeah.
it just went way beyond me. It started going viral. And when I say viral, I don't mean like billions, but the way I gauge viral is when I see.
There's a spectrum, right? So I also have a marketing background. Actually,
Yes,
now that we're
yes,
talking about the data and stuff, I remember you you and I first interacted via DMs on Instagram, and this is before you started
yes.
following me, because you had posted something about the data analytics and
Mm,
how people were not how your work was not reaching people in the same way
I'm
because
so
of the
glad you
change
remember that. Yes.
in the
Mhm.
algorithm. And I
Mhm,
remember
mhm.
an outpouring of love came for you in the comments.
Yeah.
That was one I think of maybe of thousands at that point, thousands of comments that came in. And you responded to me and we got connected and I got to send you a copy of my book. And I just said, I want to
Yes.
thank you because, I was able to do this in part because of your words and your encouragement. And it's so trippy sometimes when you think about how cyclical the world is, right? Because here you are, your career, the catalyst for you as a writer and social media influencing and all that kind of kicked off on Pinterest was a very viral moment, right? 100,000 reshares is not any
Mhm.
small feat. And yet here you were years later feeling down about the lack of
Yes.
engagements. And then
Mhm.
I think what you got back to, or what we all were saying to you essentially was your work still has value. It will
Mhm.
reach people when it's meant to reach them. And
Yeah.
then for you to now say you had a recent post that went super viral again,
Yeah.
right? That,
Yeah.
that is a cycle of being
Yeah.
an artist. And because we
Absolutely.
have some people conflate our purpose, what our purpose is as storytellers, to within a capitalist structure, we often sometimes forget my purpose as a creative isn't to try to monetize every single piece of art,
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely
Right.
not. Yeah.
It's also hard when your purpose is also the way you pay your bills. And I
Exactly.
like doing what I love for a living that's
Mhm.
tied to my purpose, and I love being paid to do what I love. But it does become this internal fight with I want to create a shitty first draft and not care how many likes it doesn't get, right? Like I want to be able to do that and not put that pressure on
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is so yeah, and I've had to learn and see that these things happen in cycles and
Actually,
that
there's also one of your pieces. So I just
oh,
keep
yeah.
realizing, you notice that there's a piece of yours back here. And I like glancing because I have ADHD, so my attention diverted here. I'm like, what does that look for?
And
Morgan,
I think is that one about
you have
things being
told yourself,
worthwhile?
you have told yourself so many stories. So here's to
Oh,
making
yeah.
room for beautiful ones.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Y'all,
Yes.
I swear to y'all, when I became a true fan, like I forgot that was even there. And I'm like, list right
Yeah.
here. I'm like,
Oh,
also,
God. Oh my goodness. But
all
yeah,
right,
that
sorry. Just
no,
my
I'm glad
ADHD.
you brought that up.
Wait, that's also
I,
one of your pieces. I have a lot of your pieces behind me.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up though, because it's like there's a lot of stories that you could tell about these moments, these highs and lows, and for me, it's like yeah, I've experienced highs and lows and in between. Like and in terms of social media, I mean, I've been active as some kind of creative on social media for 20 years now,
Wow.
and professionally a decade. So half of that time full time. Well, no more than that actually, 13 maybe 13, 14 years.
Just say, yeah,
So
we're a little older,
yeah,
huh? A little
yeah, I'm
bit,
like,
but
oh, time is flying by, adding up. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I found, there's this quote. Her name is Maria Pavova. She has a blog called Marginalian, and she said something on a podcast once about how like we've never had a generation, we've yet to have a generation live and die with the internet yet.
mm,
And when I heard that, I just held on to that because I'm like, that just takes so much pressure off. I'm like, I can't figure this out. But we are all figuring out how to move through this at the same time. So it's like, if you are someone who is just like, hey, I just need to take a decade off, like, you might be the one making a model for that. Or you're the someone who's like you said, you're like, I just need to post the stuff that's super rough and just like have space to do it. Like, do that. Like, those things can become like a model for others who they can start to feel like, well, maybe that can be my story too. Like, maybe I don't always have to be a creative in the same capacity at all times. Like I love telling people that right now I am also, I mean, I know it is absolutely a privilege to be a PhD student. Like I'm not mistaking that, but it is very different kind of work than like
it's
Morgan,
hard.
the artist. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like no, I'm sitting there in classrooms with dry erase markers and grading papers, and I'm like, yeah, it's a totally different season. It's a totally different side of creativity and connecting with people
Teaching,
that
teaching is also there's an art form to teaching.
yeah, absolutely. And it has taught me things I would have never been able to learn in other spheres. And
Yeah.
I'm like, there's so many different versions of that. Sometimes we choose them, sometimes we don't choose them. Sometimes they
Mhm.
come out of hardship, sometimes they come out of like, I wanted to pursue the thing. But it's like, I think the exciting thing is like we can make new models. We can make new ways of doing it. Of like, this is my story. This is how it's playing out in real time. I'm learning it in real time. So that's something that I try to focus on, and I think that there's an intimacy in that. Even like the work I'm doing now on Instagram, for instance, I've been doing like these 30-second breathe videos where it's just like take a moment to breathe. And I know when I started that it wasn't going to be the most highly engaged thing. You know why? Because platforms are designed to keep you on the platform.
Yeah.
And by me doing this, I'm encouraging you, hey, you can take a break. So, it's
Yeah.
it's not the kind of it's
This is a practice. It says
yes.
an invitation to breathe deep and find a new rhythm for life. And that sometimes means putting down your social
Oh,
media.
there's a circle on that cover too. Look at that. I had that going before I even
Um,
before I even was doing the circles I'm doing today. So I'm like,
yeah,
you know what? I'm like, it's not about the engagement. It's
yeah,
about the fact that people, myself included, like we get overstimulated. It's hard to
yeah,
feel like you have space to breathe or
yeah,
like you have permission to do that. So uh,
yeah.
for me, what I hope in sharing that, I was like, if anyone's watching me and seeing like, oh, here's what Morgan did, I'm like, I hope they see like, oh wow, like this isn't getting millions of views every time and she just keeps doing it anyway. I'm like, absolutely. Right.
There's part for
Yes.
art's sake, right? It goes back to that comment I made about not
Yes.
everything has to be tied back to engagement rates, likes, shares, capitalism, right?
Yeah.
But I realize I skipped the question I ask every guest, and if I don't ask you this, it will be I will people will be upset with me because it's a big part of the storytelling, the Shift podcast, which is what is your personal concept of resistance and resilience, Morgan?
Mhm. Yes. Yes. That I would say that my personal concept begins with the word lived, starting from my lived experience. And for me, just as a Black woman who grew up in a Black family, one area where that became very, very clear was as relates to health, and just health stories in my own family, just not being believed, heavily stigmatized. Um, and just having ripple effects in every area of life. So I became very passionate at a young age about how to how to use whatever I had to help other people like communicate what they needed to, whether it be to a doctor or to a medical professional of some sort. Like that very specific thing was very important to me because I was just seeing it so much in my own family. And unfortunately have lost people in my life who are no longer here because of that. There's a lot of anger in that, but a lot of righteous anger that comes in that too, of
Yeah,
just like it is life or death when people don't listen to people's stories. They don't take them seriously. So I start with the word lived because I was like, I think it's important that you start with where you first encountered that like injustice in your life in like a big way, because then you're able to go into other areas and say like, even if I don't even know like the intimate details of someone else's story, I know what it feels like to have experienced an injustice or having seen it happen. And I know that that has an impact, long term impact in people's lives and in communities. So I say all that to say, like, that really drives a lot of my work that I do right now as it relates to very specifically mental health stigma and also late diagnosed neurodivergence. Because as these terms become more mainstream and as they become more people are talking about them, unfortunately, there's still a lot of people that get lost in the mix.
yeah,
Um, and in terms of like the data on that, a lot of people that look like me, a lot of Black people in particular, just get lost in this. So for me, it's connected to that lived experience, but it doesn't stop there. I just bring it to that because I am, and I think if you're the kind of person who cares about seeing the world be a better place, there's sometimes it can be very discouraging because it's like you can't do everything. It's like that you it's like you see the pain, you see the struggle, and you're like, what can I do? And it's just like you can continue to feel it. You can continue to have those nights where you're frustrated or you're sleepless. Like, what can I do? Like, what's mine to do? So that's
yeah,
sort of I would say the second part of it
Yeah,
is,
the resentment.
living it and then living a question. And that is, I'm borrowing from the poet, one of my favorite poets, Rainer Maria Rilke, and he has a poem about living the questions. And I'm
Mhm.
adapting and the context. It's like he doesn't know anything about me. He's no longer here on earth. But for me, that's what that meant. It's like live the question. People are like, well, how do I fix racism? I'm like, we have to live that. Like, it's like the question mark at the end of that. Like, that's where we are. We have to live it. It's uncomfortable. It's tense. It
Mm.
doesn't have. There's not a one, two, three step, and then we're done. It's just like we have to live in it, and we can share that living in it. So that's something that I hold to a lot, because sometimes, like, I'll get comments from people, like on social media or messages, and sometimes people say, like, this is really encouraging, but this doesn't solve X, Y, and Z, whether in my personal life or my community. And I always respond and say, I know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know your situation, but I know, and I just want you to know that I am not writing from a place of offering solutions. I was like, I am writing from a space of creating space. And I'm like, and sometimes it might
Introspection.
register.
Yeah,
Hmm.
introspection. I mean, that's the thing
Yeah.
with your words, and that's why for over a decade I've been sharing it on my social media, and it often will pop up on my Facebook memory of like, you did this post 10 years ago, and then it says,
Yeah.
and this is long before you ever knew. I mean, long before we ever met, long before I ever thought the possibility of ever meeting you in real life, before I even knew you lived in Atlanta Metro. Like, I remember when I reached out to you on Instagram after we started chatting, I said, I would love to send you a copy of my book. Are you okay with that? And you're like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I also live in the Atlanta Metro. And I'm inside the perimeter for those who are in the Atlanta Metro. I live
Yeah.
inside the perimeter, and
Yes.
Morgan lives outside the perimeter. And, and to shout out to Nidra, we were at her book event for her newest book.
Yes. She's the
Um,
best.
and I feel so bad because I really had every intention of going online to ask a question, like to meet her and to get, to meet her. And then I ran into you and I just like, oh my God. And I had such a moment. And then the line got so long. I was like, I'm hungry. I'm tired. I need to leave. I got to meet her, but I just sent her a nice email saying it was so great to be at her book event, Atlanta
Yes.
in Decatur. She was in Decatur. But it was just like, I left there just so happy to have met you. And it's not even, it wasn't even your book event, but I was like, oh my God. But I had randomly turned to a page in your book, Peace is a Practice. And there's a part in here that says, practice peace by embracing the fullness of reality. And I think that sometimes what this moment, especially right now, right,
Yeah.
with all these major Supreme Court decisions right now, we're taping this as of June 30th, 2026. It'll come out, this episode will drop in a few weeks. But we're meeting right now at a time when some major Supreme Court decisions have come down, both favorable and unfavorable for people like you and I, who are people of color, who belong to multi-marginalized communities. And for me, I'm really struggling with being empathetic, and I'm naturally an empath, right? And so but I'm starting to lose my patience with folks because I'm just like,
That's
the
real.
speed in which the vitriol is coming out in Trump 2.0, the speed in which people are capitulating to this man and this rhetoric, and it goes back to dehumanizing one another. And what I appreciate about stories, and I know this to be true, is that my mission is to harness the power of stories to create a more inclusive world, because I know it is hard to hate someone when you start to see yourself reflected in their stories.
Yeah.
Humanize those who have so often been dehumanized. And your work does that for so many of us. It humanizes something in such a simple way, right? And in a world where we're moving fast and fearless and ferociously, your words remind us to sit and be present. It reminds us to breathe. It reminds us that this is just the beginning and there's more to it, right? And there's more to be done. And that peace is a practice, and you can have whatever you want, right? But this idea that it happens over time, and your use of flowers and imagery, and that's why I wore this flowery based dress. I was like, oh, let me wear something with florals to like tie in her work, and I'm that kind of person. I take everything into consideration. But I want to ask you this question because this ties back a little to what you were just talking about. You received your autism, ADHD, and sensory processing disorder diagnosis later in life at 31. well into a career with millions of people had already been shaped by your work. What did it feel like to finally have language for how you experience the world, and how has that shifted the way you show up in your creative work and your life? Because whenever I see your work on social media, I always think to myself, what is going on in her head? Like, I want to know how she comes with all this stuff because it's so creative and so both visually beautiful and poetically, the words are also beautiful. Like, how do you navigate that?
Yes, thanks for asking that. And yeah, it definitely finding that out was at the same it was a relief and also an activation at the same time. Because so the long story short is I had kind of like I've already alluded to, just health stories for many years, just a lot of different struggles that I had, not getting answers on things. And it took a long time, and with a little bit of help of TikTok, of people who were sharing their stories on TikTok. And that helped me actually figure out how to find someone who worked with adults who were having challenges as it relates to different neurodivergence, different aspects of neurodivergence. So that actually that led me to getting. It took a long time, but it led me to getting a formal diagnosis, and
Mm,
it brought a lot of relief because suddenly I had words for just things I had struggled with. For instance, for people who are on the spectrum, autistic people, social challenges are consequential. So a lot of people can have challenges socially. That's a part of the human experience. But for autistic people, different degrees. Like some people have different everyone has different challenges than others. But what that looks like for someone like me is, in a very practical sense, I don't naturally hear things like tone of voice, or I have to study those things and learn them. And I have to enter into interactions like having learned different cultural things to learn subtext that feels natural to other people. So, like if someone says, "Are you okay?" I can't always hear like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Like little intonations and things like that. And I say consequential because like if you're just chatting with friends, it might not be consequential. But what happens when you're at the hospital? What happens when
mm,
you're a student, as I was, you're growing up in school and you're not able to communicate with your teachers. So all that's just one little note I just mentioned. So I mean I barely scratched the surface with that, but yeah.
no, there's so many different things, and I will tell you, when I found out that I had ADHD, it was also later in life. But that's after being born disabled with cerebral palsy. That's after my mental health stuff. So I kind of okay, just another thing to add to my already multifaceted, layered identity. But what surprised me was the shame I felt
Mm,
finding out later in life because a lot started to make more sense for me. And had
mhm.
I just known that my brain was hardwired differently, it would have saved me a lot of heartache and pain.
Absolutely. Mm,
Yeah. And that was I think
mm,
for me that was the hardest part is like the
yeah,
shame I felt thinking it was all my fault, thinking that I was just something was innately wrong with me.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is real. I think for me that connects to the activation part I was saying, because I was like it like activated all these new things, and that was a part of it. And then also grief, because it's
Yeah.
like you grieve all the years that you didn't know. It's like
Yeah.
how differently would my life have been like if I didn't spend all those years blaming myself in school, blaming myself in friendship, blaming myself for things that I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't know if you experience with ADHD, but even things like, because like oftentimes like society will even like moralize things about like responding to text messages late or things like that. And
Mhm.
all the years I shamed myself for that, like feeling bad, like, oh, it's just horrible at keeping up with this and that. So not having language around like that stuff gets heavy. I mean, and it doesn't go away with age. Like it just packs on because you just have even more pattern recognition. You're like, great, I've been this way since I was 5. So
Yeah.
it just packs on. So yeah, like it activated a lot of that. And honestly, like I didn't really know what to do with it at first, other than just like I was like, well, okay, no, I have all this wonderful. And I, definitely stayed in therapy after that, and that was very helpful and still is very helpful.
Yeah.
And the thing that it made, the way it changed my work was the only thing, going back to like one story at a time, the only thing that gave me any kind of courage to share any of the stuff that I'm talking about right now. And I wrote a very detailed blog post, which I can't even go back and read it now because I'm like, I don't even know what I said. Like it was years ago. People keep telling me they found it. I'm like, it's just out there. I don't even know. It's out there. I didn't take it down. I left it. But it, oof, I'm not just some like brave, let's just go tell the story. No, like it was terrifying. And the only thing that I could do to tell that story was thinking about, I was like, somewhere, and this is the year I was struggling the most, when I was 14. I was like,
Mm.
somewhere there is a Black girl out there who's 14 years old, and she feels like it's all her fault. And I was like, I'm sharing this for her. I was like, I don't know who she is. I don't know where she is. Um, that's where I find the courage to
Yeah.
share any of it. And it's all in my artwork now. Sometimes it's more like implicit, sometimes it's more like, I have a few pieces that I've done that really reflect, what it feels like to be autistic. And it's hard to make art about that. So it's not a lot yet. But yeah, that's where I get the courage. I'm like, somewhere out there, there's a girl 14 years old. Somewhere out there, there's a 22-year-old. Somewhere out there, there's a 55-year-old searching, Googling, trying to find something that says, like, I can't be the only person who's lived with this. I can't be the only person who has felt this. And that's what keeps me sharing. That's what
Yeah.
keeps me creating. That's what keeps me going through the desert seasons, the drought seasons, whatever you want to call it. It's just like I'm like somewhere out there. There's someone, and I'm like, I'm here and able to do this because of the people who've done this for me. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's actually, I mentioned TikTok. There's several of the creators who were sharing at the time, that their words are very special to me. Some of them have taken breaks from sharing, or some of them aren't sharing anymore. And I think that's healthy and valid too. I think it's also important to be like, I did the thing, I shared it, it served its purpose. We can shift and we can change, but yeah, I would say, like, if I had to just say it in simple words, like the way it's changed my work, it's definitely like activated this whole like kind of world of possibility as it relates to the emotions that we can feel about it, the ways different people can express it. There's no one way to talk about ADHD online. There's no one way to talk about neurodivergence online. Some people are going to share their whole diagnosis journey. Some people are not going to share that, and that's okay. Like, we're not owed like every detail. Like because some people might share all of it, and then some people might not share any of it.
These are just for some of us, right? And I think,
Yeah,
and this
exactly.
is my my last one of the last questions I have, which I really wanted to get to. So I'm gonna switch my words today. I'm gonna switch gears really quick. As a Black woman, a neurodivergent artist, a PhD student, and a mental health advocate, you hold a lot of identities that don't always get to coexist in the same room. Where do you feel most fully yourself? And what has it cost you to show up whole? Because I think that's what I noticed is switching you, is when you start talking more openly about all the other things you were dealing with. I know that cost you. And so what has it cost you to show up as your whole self?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Where I feel the most like myself is where I felt the most like myself when I was like 5 years old. And that is literally just standing outside. Just standing outside in the nature, hearing the birds and the cars going by. It doesn't have to be some, completely rural place. Airplanes, whatever, but just being outside, because being outside is the closest I can get to the unstructured environment, the constructed world that humans make. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a house. I love indoor plumbing. I'm very grateful for I am not. When I talk about outside, I'm not talking about camping. Like I like camping. Camping's fine, but I'm just like at the end of the day, I
Yes, I
like
need
my for plumbing.
yes, I need I need running hot water, I need electricity, I
Yes,
need
yes, love those things. Very grateful for them. Very grateful for those privileges.
yeah.
And at the same time, to stand outside and just put my hand on the bark of the tree,
Mm,
to just pick up a leaf and hold it in my hand, to just look up and see flickers of sunlight through the shade of a tree. It's like those are real things. I'm like, this is the real world that we built a whole world on top of it, and it has a lot of function and usefulness.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, this world is still breathing and it's still real, and I can go outside and just be, even if it's just for a few minutes. And I recognize even that as an enormous privilege to be able to even do that for 5 seconds. And that's
Mhm.
something I've learned doing my 30-second video project. I'm like, 30 seconds is a lot of time. I'm like, it actually takes, even the most rural areas I've been in for recording so far, it takes a long time to get 30 seconds of like quiet nature without a motorcycle, airplane, activity, life, humans doing things, for better or for worse. Like it's just a lot. So I'm like, I consider that enormous privilege. I think that is where and when it comes to what it costs me, it costs me energy. You know, that's it.
Mhm.
I'm like, I do not have infinite energy. No one does. But yeah, it takes me a long time to feel like that battery is at 100%. Like I do not have a lot of energy. So um, I have a lot of hearts, I have a lot of passion, I have a lot, but I do not have a lot of energy. So I have to I have to get really literal about it. That's why when I mention sunlight, I'm like, I need that. Like my skin, like my DNA says, get out there in the sun. Like you gotta be in the sun um and take a nap. Like a lot of it's that for
Mhm.
me. Like
Yeah.
this work has cost me some naps. I'm like the amount of times where I've had to kind of like answer something or do something, and I was like, this was nap time. I
Yeah,
needed that nap.
I
So
know.
it's very practical in that way. Those costs, because I feel like that sometimes that gets overlooked, but that affects everything else. Like because it's like if you're not sleeping well, if you're not able to take care of your physical, the material needs, like that's going to affect everything else. So
Yeah.
that's what I've becoming even more mindful of, and that's some of that's probably just age too. Just getting older. I'm 36 now. So I'm not in my
Oh,
early 30s anymore. I'm approaching 40, and I'm like, I want to be around. I'm like, I'm trying to be around over here. So I'm like, I have to.
just
I
turned
gotta.
35 in May, so I'm
Oh,
also
nice,
not
yeah.
in my 30s, and it's a bit jarring. It's a
Hmm.
bit jarring, and it's
Hmm.
I think you know I was just saying this to a friend yesterday because I had come home after a weekend in New Orleans. My friend's 40th birthday. My best friend just turned 40. One of my best friends just turned 40 today. Today's actually her birthday. And so I promised her a year ago, I said, no matter where we are in the world, a year from now, we're going to be in New Orleans celebrating your birthday, your last few days in your 30s before you turn 40. And I kept my word. I didn't know how I was going to manifest. My friends call me a power manifester. They're like, one thing about Mark, he's going to manifest, he's going to do what he has to do to make it happen. And I didn't know, right, in terms of resources, in terms of timing, what was going to happen. But I knew if I was on the calendar, I knew if it was on my calendar, if I knew I was intentional with it, that I would make it happen. And it was exactly what I needed because the last few weeks have been so difficult. Being a creative entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. Trying to run a business, especially as a creative, when there is such a devaluing of our art and the value of art in general in our society, it is a lot of pressure, and I'd be remiss to you today if I didn't say, I've been working at my desk since 8:30 in the morning, and I've been go go go, and I have to go till 6 p.m. tonight, right? And in that, there's a deep gratitude to do what I love, and I'm also tired. And I also need to go outside now. You inspired me to go outside after this interview for a quick little walk to get some fresh air. But it is, there's a cost. There's a cost to being a boss. There's a cost to being a full time creative entrepreneur. There's a cost of being a PhD student, of being a mother, of being a wife, of being, there's a cost to everything that we do. And, you know, I never take it for granted when someone says yes to my invitation to be on my podcast, because this could have been your napping time, right? And so thank you for saying yes. You know, I always say time is the one currency you can't get back. And so I appreciate you taking time with me today. I know we're a little bit over time, so I just want to ask you this: if you answer this
Let's
question,
go.
answer this question in one sentence, which I know might be hard for some of us. What do you hope to shift in society through your work?
I hope to shift the way we talk about and think about the language and the stories that we tell in a way that expands them and
Mm,
creates room for more kinds of stories to be told.
yeah,
I hope to shift into something that expands, and I think that language, and when I say language, I mean visual language,
yeah,
text language. Language can play a role in helping that movement happen outward.
yeah, for sure.
I think that was one sentence.
That was brief enough for me. I loved it. Um, Y'all, be sure to check out Morgan Harper Nichols. Her work, we'll link her Instagram, her website, her Garden 24, which is where you can get her books. You can also get her mugs, her prints. Y'all, her mugs are so cute. I had created
Oh,
a whole
thank
installation
you.
around them and added a few other mugs from store that I don't shop at anymore. And I remember I think I sent you a video. I was like, "Hey, by the way, here's the little mug collection." And I had posted on my Instagram. And it wasn't an ad. I had to put like not an ad so people so Instagram wouldn't take it down. I'm just like someone who like really fangirls. And so
You.
please support creative entrepreneurs in your life. So if Morgan, if you ever saw a quote graphic that resonate with you with the initials MHN, it was her work. So if her words have moved you and helped you, please return the favor by sharing her content, engaging with her work, supporting her work, putting your dollars where your mouth is. It is so imperative that we one not only support Black women, but Black women creatives especially, because we know that the publishing industry is extremely white. We know that marginalized authors do not get the same support in terms of publicity as some of the other folks that we know who are, let's say, lacking color. And so please make sure to support Morgan's work. If any at any point her work has resonated with you, like the way it has for me over the last 15 years, please support her. We need more work from her, and we need to give her flowers while she's around to smell it. And so please be sure to check out her work. Be sure to follow her, order her books, and be sure to like and rate and subscribe this podcast. It is a project of love. This is self-produced, self-funded. So by you sharing it and following and subscribing, it helps us expand our reach and hopefully gain a large audience. So until next time, remember, you're not alone in this. We're never meant to do it alone. We're in this together. Take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and be well. Thank you, Morgan, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Pleasure.